It's great to be here and to acknowledge Stephen Gardner, who took these poems, plucked them out of the air and made the music you'll hear. What I love about the process is that he has relinquished a certain amount of control, which I understand for a composer is a huge leap, as it would be for a poet. I have relinquished control of these poems into the marvellous music of the beings that surround me here tonight. And I feel privileged that they have this afterlife, because I wrote these poems in the first few years of the 1990s. They're two short poems, Well and Seed, and then a slightly longer poem. And Well and Seed were written in the middle of the night, one night in early 1990. I got up out of bed and I just had this urge to speak, but I didn't have a subject. And I, as often happens when I'm stuck, I took down a tarot deck, and it had just been published. It was called the Elemental Tarot. So instead of the traditional suits like pentacles, wands, cups, swords, it had the elements like earth, water, fire, and air. So I laid out the cards, and I just trusted that the imagery in these newly published, which used a lot of elements, that they would tell me what to say. So I kind of abandoned my usual control on the material to see what the world might offer me, which is really, it was the start of a whole cycle of much freer, more, I think, stronger work when I let go that control. And of course you put the control back in with each line. So this first poem is called Well, and it came out of one of the water cards, the element of water, which would have been the old cups in the traditional tarot. The poem Seed came out of the earth cards, and again I trusted to the imagery. The other poem, the third poem, which is in the middle of the recital, is called My Father Perceived as a Vision of St. Francis. And when I was in school, I think we were terrorized by the lives of the saints, who all seemed to be, daggers in the side, and suffering was big in the lives of the saints, martyrs. So I was quite frightened by the imagery around them, except for St. Francis, who, in his sermon to the creatures, seemed to be full of radiance and light, and I loved the birds and the creatures in the imagery in those lives of the saints. So my mother died very young, and my father, in a way, became mother and father to the younger children. So this is an image of him in that role of that giving and caring role that he took up. And he especially did love creatures. He was even known to take bones from the dinners, the leftovers, and feed them to the ferocious guard dogs, usually mangy, half-starved Alsatians in the industrial estate in Finglas. And that poem is set in the back garden in the house in Finglas. So to see them revived now in this setting is, for me, entirely wonderful. I just would say about my father that he would always think that poetry was a bit like something someone with a lot of problems would get into, that it was akin to basket weaving in the old psychiatric hospitals. And he would describe it as, taking to the poetry. She's taken to the poetry the way people take to the drink. But we became great friends in his last few years of life. Before that, he would have had serious doubts. But two things happened that blew his mind. Firstly, I was a clue in a crossword, And he was a lifelong devotee of crosswords. He did 2 or 3 every day, really difficult ones. And it was 4 letters, you know, P-O-E-T. And for the last few years of his life, I would go and say, 4 letters, Larry, 4 letters. And the other thing was he was a lifelong gambler. And in the last year of his life, I was a bet in Paddy Powers that my work would come up on the Leaving Cert. So for those last years of his life, he really was looking at me with profound awe. So I did. It's what you know. I got some kind of a recognition from him. It was lovely. So anyway, I'm going to do the first poem, and then the music will happen, and then I'll come up and do the next poem, and the music will happen, and finally I'll do the last poem, and the music will happen. It's amazing to be in the middle of these ancient walls behind me, and when I came in at first I thought, God, there's a very small audience, I'll be talking to the walls, but you're all very welcome, and it's lovely to see you here. So, well, I know this path by magic, not by sight. Behind me on the hillside, the cottage light is like a star that's gone astray. The moon is waning fast, each blade of grass a rune inscribed by hoarfrost. This path's well worn. I lug a bucket by bramble and blossoming blackthorn. I know this path by magic, not by sight. Next morning when I come home quite unkempt, I cannot tell what happened at the well. You spurn my explanation of a sex spell cast by the spirit that guards the source that boils deep in the belly of the earth. Even when I show you what lies strewn in my bucket, a golden waning moon, 7 silver stars, our own porch light, and your face at the window staring into the dark.
is like a star that's gone astray. The moon is waning far. Each blade of grass a rune, inscribed by the paths well worn. The paths well worn. The paths by bramble and blossoming blackthorn, I know this path by magic.
My father perceived as a vision of St. Francis for Brendan Kennelly. It was the piebald horse in next door's garden frightened me out of a dream with her dawn whinny. I was back in the box room of the house, my brother's room now, full of ties and sweaters and secrets. Bottles chinked on the doorstep. The first bus pulled up to the stop. The rest of the house slept, except for my father. I heard him rake the ash from the grate, plug in the kettle, hum a snatch of a tune. Then he unlocked the back door and stepped out into the garden. Autumn was nearly done. The first frost whitened the slates of the estate. He was older than I had reckoned, his hair completely silver, and for the first time I saw the stoop of his shoulder, saw that his leg was stiff. What's he at? So early and still stars in the west? They came then, birds of every size, shape, colour. They came from the hedges and shrubs, from eaves and garden sheds, from the industrial estate, outlying fields. From Dubber Cross they came, and the ditches of the North Road. The garden was a pandemonium when my father threw up his hands and tossed the crumbs to the air. The sun cleared O'Reilly's chimney, and he was suddenly radiant, a perfect vision of St. Francis, made whole, made young again in a fingless garden.
Then he unlocked the back door and stepped out into the garden. And autumn was nearly done. The first frost whitened the slates of the estate. They came then, birds of every size, shape, color, they came.
Seed. The first warm day of spring, and I step out into the garden from the gloom of a house where hope had died, to tally the storm damage, to seek what may have survived, and finding some forgotten lupins I'd sown from seed last autumn, holding in their fingers a raindrop each, like a peace offering or a promise, I am suddenly grateful and would offer a prayer if I believed in God, but not believing, I bless the power of seed, its casual, useful persistence, and bless the power of sun, its conspiracy with the underground, and thank my stars the winter's ended.
The first warm day of spring, and I stepped out into the garden from the gloom of a house where hope had died. To the tally, the storm to what may have survived, and finding some forgotten lupins I'd sown from seed last autumn, holding in their fingers a raindrop each, like a peace offering or a promise. I am suddenly grateful believed in God. If I believed in finding some forgotten blueprint, sown from seed last autumn, holding in their fingers a raindrop like a peace offering for a promise. I am suddenly grateful and would offer a prayer. If I believed in God, if I believed in God and would offer prayer, if I believed in God. But not believing. I bless the power of seed, its casual persistence. lost conspiracy with the and thank my stars and thank my stars. The winter's ended. The winter's ended. But no